I choose a lazy person to do a hard job. Because a lazy person will find an easy way to do it. If you can't make it good, at least make it look good. Your most unhappy customers are your greatest source of learning. Most people overestimate what they can do in 1 year and underestimate what they can do in 10 years. Success is a lousy teacher. It seduces smart people into thinking they can't lose. I really had a lot of dreams when I was a kid, and I think a great deal of that grew out of the fact that I had a chance to read a lot. If you give people tools, and they use their natural abilities and their curiosity, they will develop things in ways that will surprise you very much beyond what you might have expected. In terms of doing things, I take a fairly scientific approach to why things happen and how they happen. I don't know if there's a God or not. As we look ahead into the next century, leaders will be those who empower others. DNA is like a computer program, but far, far more advanced than any software ever created. Measuring programming progress by lines of code is like measuring aircraft building progress by weight. Computers are great because when you're working with them you get immediate results that let you know if your program works. It's feedback you don't get from many other things. Our success has really been based on partnerships from the very beginning. The vision is really about empowering workers, giving them all the information about what's going on so they can do a lot more than they've done in the past. It's fine to celebrate success, but it is more important to heed the lessons of failure. Power comes not from knowledge kept but from knowledge shared. Well, Steve Jobs, I think it's more like we both had this rich neighbor named Xerox and I broke into his house to steal the TV set and found out that you had already stolen it. I believe that if you show people the problems and you show them the solutions, they will be moved to act. Some people may call me a nerd. I claim the label with pride. Technology is just a tool. In terms of getting the kids working together and motivating them, the teacher is the most important. The cruel injustice is that even though the world's poor are doing essentially nothing to cause climate change, they're going to suffer the most from it. If you can't make it good, at least make it look good. Like almost everyone who uses email, I receive a ton of spam every day. Much of it offers to help me get out of debt or get rich quick. It would be funny if it weren't so exciting. To sum up, we need to accomplish something gigantic we have never done before, much faster than we have ever done anything similar. The climate is like a bathtub that's slowly filling up with water. Even if we slow the flow of water to a trickle, the tub will eventually fill up and water will come spilling out onto the floor. That's the disaster we have to prevent. Setting a goal to only reduce our emissions, but not eliminate them, won't do it. I studied everything but never topped. But today the toppers of the best universities are my employees. The point is that when we focus on all three things at once, technology, policies, and markets, we can encourage innovation, spark new companies, and get new products into the market fast. but I hope you'll spend more time and energy supporting whatever you're in favor of than opposing whatever you're against. Well, I went for a ride but I didn't find my car. Whatever other resources you may have, you can always use your voice and your vote to affect change. Remember that we need to find solutions for all 5 activities that emissions come from: making things, plugging in, growing things, getting around, and keeping cool and warm. There are 2 numbers you need to know about climate change. The first is 51 billion. The other is 0. 51 billion is how many tons of greenhouse gases the world typically adds to the atmosphere every year. Business is a money game with few rules and a lot of risk. If you want to understand the kind of damage that climate change will inflict, look at COVID-19 and then imagine spreading the pain out over a much longer period of time. In my view, investing in public libraries is an investment in the nation's future. The world uses more than 4 billion gallons every day. When you're using any product at that kind of volume, you can't simply stop overnight. In this business, by the time you realize you are in trouble, it's too late to save yourself. Unless you're running scared all the time, you're gone. Most people overestimate what they can accomplish in a day, and overestimate what they can accomplish in a year. The problem of overgeneration in the summer and undergeneration in the winter. My full-time job is working with my wife, Melinda. But giving people more information can help them make better choices. But we can't solve a problem like climate change without an honest accounting of how much we need to do and what obstacles we need to overcome. It's the main thing I do in my life. I read and I chew glasses. That's my job. Whenever you see some number of tons of greenhouse gases, convert it to a percentage of 51 billion. Which is the world's current yearly total emissions, in carbon dioxide equivalents. Artificial meats come with hefty green premiums, however. On average, a ground beef substitute costs 86% more than the real thing. All told, fertilizers were responsible for roughly 1.3 billion tons of greenhouse gas emissions in 2010. And the number will probably rise to 1.7 billion tons by mid-century. Making 1 ton of steel produces about 1.8 tons of carbon dioxide. In particular, green premiums are a fantastic lens for making decisions. When you use carbon dioxide equivalents, you aren't fully accounting for this important short-term effect. It's aviation, trucking, and shipping, not passenger cars, that account for all the emissions growth in this sector. The most effective tree-related strategy for climate change is to stop cutting down so many of the trees we already have. The Gates Foundation's whole approach to saving lives is based on the idea that we need to be pushing innovation for the poor while also increasing demand for it. I'm glad I've invested all that time learning about electricity. For one thing, it was a great father-son activity. Seriously. The vision is about empowering workers, giving them all the information about what's going on so they can do a lot more than they've done in the past. The world needs to provide more energy so the poorest can thrive, but we need to provide that energy without releasing any more greenhouse gases. Besides, making electricity accounts for only 27% of all greenhouse gas emissions. Even if we had a huge breakthrough in batteries, we would still need to get rid of the other 73%. Nuclear power kills far fewer people than cars do. For that matter, it kills far fewer people than any fossil fuel. Because every bit of carbon we put into the atmosphere adds to the greenhouse effect. There's no getting around physics. Keep in mind that this isn't fake meat. Cultivated meat has all the same fat, muscles, and tendons as any animal on 2 or 4 legs. But rather than growing up on a farm, it's created in a lab. What's remarkable to me is not how much emissions went down because of the pandemic, but how little. Passenger cars represent less than half of all the emissions from transportation, which in turn is 16% of all emissions worldwide. Why do energy transitions take so long, anyway? Because coal plants are not like computer chips. The power density of solar could theoretically reach 100 watts per square meter, though no one has accomplished this yet.